Welcome back to News Center. Thank you very much for staying with us. We want to get into our discussion. Remember that we're looking at that return of the fiery political activist and lawyer Miguna Miguna. It's not yet clear if indeed it's going to be today, that second return. Sounds very dramatic, but all the while we need, of course, to have that conversation about just the way he left the country and what we're expecting even as he prepares or as he tries to come back into the country. Let me introduce my guest, and I'll start from my extreme right. Kepha Ojijo, thank you very much for joining us. He's a lawyer. We also have Alex Gatundu, who is also a lawyer and a political commentator. Thanks, Alex, for coming through.
Karibu.
So now, it's not yet clear if Miguna Miguna is coming, but let's say he's coming in because he indicated that he's coming. Then he went under. Maybe that was a smart move. This time round, are we expecting some sanity or the normal showdown that we've seen in the past? I'll start with you, Alex.
From the conditions that we are seeing on the Twitter, there's no more storm. And so I suspect that maybe he may have decided to come into the country quietly and cause no more drama. That would be our wish, because we don't need this shenanigans and drama anymore. Yes,
Your wish as a Kenyan?
Yes.
Yeah, that no more drama.
Yes, and we, as a country, emotionally, we are afraid. We have other things that we are dealing with. So we would rather that the government and the immigration and Miguna, on the other hand, deal with the issue quietly, amicably, and out of scene and out of the camera glare.
Right. But is it really possible, Kepha? Because going with what Gordon Kihalangwa has said, in the last couple of days, that, I mean, they remain very staunch and very solidified in what they're saying that Miguna, first of all, has to apply to regain back his citizenship, and that it's not going to be as smooth. He's not going to be treated as a special case. So do you think really that it's likely that if indeed he comes, it's going to be a smooth process?
Betty, number one, we need to understand the person we are dealing with. We are dealing with Miguna Miguna. Miguna Miguna, one, he's an advocate.
Yeah.
He's also, a human rights lawyer by specialization. And Miguna Miguna is someone who cannot compromise his rights just to, maybe to make the state happy or to make individuals feel like, they have achieved their goals. So I still believe that, one, Miguna Miguna will not comply with the orders that Kihalangwa and the Interior Cabinet Secretary expects him to. Because Miguna Miguna believes, and every Kenyan knows, as a practitioner I will tell you that as we speak, the court orders are still in force. You see, they have not been suspended. They have not been overruled by, Court of Appeal decision. Right. They are still in court. Right. And the court orders were clear that because the issue in court was to determine whether, in layman's term, whether Miguna is a Kenyan, making him to apply for a new valid passport already determines that position in court. You see, that is why the court insisted that status quo has to be maintained. And it is the duty of the government to facilitate his coming, so that that matter is then resolved in court. It's the court that will now determine that you are now hereby ordered to apply for a new Kenyan passport or not.
But in the past, I mean, Alex, we've seen the court orders being ignored. We have about 13 of them, which are in favor of Miguna Miguna coming back into the country peacefully. But I mean, you've seen in the past, the government, does it really care about it, or is it, it has this direction that it's following, the courts notwithstanding?
I've said it before, and I'm going to reiterate right now, and I'll continue saying it. Court orders are not something that we can have a debate on as to whether they should be obeyed or not, irrespective of who we are dealing with, and irrespective of whom it is directed at. Court orders must be followed, they must be obeyed to the letter. And if any party is offended or feels offended, then they should approach to the same court for review or to a higher court of appeal, for example, the Court of Appeal, or maybe the Supreme Court if the jurisdiction is allowable. That notwithstanding, it is, I would like to state here categorically that it is important that this issue be resolved amicably. Remember that alternative dispute resolution is part of our justice system and administration of justice, unlike before we came with this new constitution. ADR is now anchored in the Constitution. This is an issue that can easily be resolved out of the camera glare and out of the public emotions and flaring of the same by the advocates of the immigration and the advocates of Miguna. They agree. What are Miguna's apprehensions and fears? why does he apprehend that his rights are going to be trampled if he is forced to apply for tourist visa? Because the moment he applies for tourist visa, then it means that his rights as a citizen will be crippled, and they will be dwindled. In fact, they will be limited so much that he cannot even hold a press conference on anything political, etc., which to me I think is a little bit hard and harsh. So for me, those are issues that they can sit in a boardroom, lock the door as we should do, and discuss those issues. Are we able to come up with an amicable middle path ground of settlement such that by the time we are coming out of the board, that the advocates for both sides are coming out of the boardroom, they will have charted a way forward that is easy on Miguna, and no immigration law or regulations would have been trampled. Remember, if the moment you flout immigration rule as a republic, then you also expose yourself to the international community as far as safety of your airports, or access to your airport, or cooperation of other international actors internationally in terms of travels is concerned. So you must take on board all these concerns, all these interests on board, not only of the state, not only of the immigration, but also Miguna's. Because Miguna, to treat Miguna like a foreigner or a stranger, it's unfair because he was born here. He may have renounced his citizenship by virtue of applying and being granted Canadian citizenship, but that does not change the fact that he was born in Kenya. So we cannot treat him the same way we would treat a Ugandan or a Kenyan or a Canadian applying for citizenship here. We cannot treat him like that. We need to be fair to him, but also he also needs to be fair to the administration, any administration regulations that are enforced as far as some of these issues are concerned. So for me, amicably settle the issues. Gatu does not have to be involved. Kepha does not have to be involved. You don't have to be involved. The public does not have to be involved. The president does not have to be involved. Let them go to a boardroom, settle these issues. I'm sure they can come up with a very amicable, peaceable way. And even his processing, if we need to go there, can be done, can be fast-tracked. Yes. All
right. That's an ideal situation. Let's hope that it goes as smooth as you've outlined there. But I also want us to bring the political aspect of this and the fact that right now, we're talking about this thing in a different political environment. Before then, there was no handshake. There was no, this bromance between the president and the former prime minister. Now things have changed. Are we likely to see Miguna Miguna being given that much prominence that he was given at that time? Because right now, the wheel has already rolled. Will he just come back into the country and become just a normal citizen, the same way he was before? Because right now the NRM, it's in limbo. All these things that were there before this handshake, have been done away with. When you talk about that, the resistance movement and all this boycott of goods, everything, almost everything, there's almost near. There's really no issue with the opposition and how things were before the handshake. Are we expecting things to be different?
Betty, every leadership is, judged or then graded by its fidelity to the law. Handshake between the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and the President is therefore supposed to facilitate the acts of the law. If there was a court order that is still pending, you see, handshake itself cannot suspend that court order. It's supposed to enforce that court order, you see. And it is very interesting. Actually, right now, it should be easier for Miguna, to be accepted in the country than it was before. Because I have a feeling that if we have the court order, which is still in force as it is, and then there's also now political goodwill, because what we had before was, was the court order versus, the political, frustration. You see, so they were weighing which is superior on the board. But now that we have a court order in force, and we have political goodwill also to ensure that the country is united, you see, Miguna should be the first beneficiary of this and a clear example to Kenyans that sure we are headed in the right direction. However, I still have feelings that there are certain elements in the government, I'm not afraid to say including the cabinet secretary and the immigration department, that still feels that their superiority must be felt. You see, they still want the country to show that we stand by what, what we say, and people must, abide by our rules. Alex is saying the boardroom, but I do not support the boardroom, because what will happen then to an ordinary Kenyan somewhere that will also might have been in a conflict between the law and superiority, a person that cannot be considered in a boardroom. So it should be outright. Court orders are public, documents that everybody should access and should be seen outrightly that people abide by them. So if Miguna, therefore, there's an order that Miguna should be back in the country, and the effect of court order is that it suspends any other operation, it suspends any procedure required, you see, until that matter is determined in court. Is when the court will direct which way forward. With the handshake and political goodwill, I do not expect drama. I wish that the leadership will realize that it is now time that we must set an example to abide by the court orders, to ensure that Miguna is welcome back in the country, then taken to the court, and his matter, be heard by the court, for the court to make a determination. So I expect that that should be a determinant, and a proper way to ensure that Miguna is safely in the country, and Miguna becomes the first beneficiary of that political will together with the court.
All right. Alex, your thoughts on that one?
I wouldn't depart much from what you said, except to add that, remember, the issue of Miguna is not strictly and exclusively legal or constitutional.
Yes.
It's also political. And being a political issue, the resolution to the same would also have to be anchored and predicated on politics and its players in the country as far as the interests concerned. Now, how do we resolve the issue, and does hardship have any impact or implication on the Miguna issue? And has Miguna's comeback have any implication on the hardship on the other hand? I think if I go to your question.
Right.
I think Miguna, to start with, the stardom that he enjoyed before the handshake has to some extent dwindled. And you can see there isn't much enthusiasm in the country as far as his comeback is concerned. Unlike last time. Last time we were here, you remember, and it was quite a variety of activities in the studios and also on at the KICC.
Of course.
You people slept there, and your reporters slept there.
Yeah.
And there were these cat and mouse running battles at the airport. And you remember even some advocates had to sleep there. And we had even some politicians. This time around, that seemed to have gone down. And for me, the toning down and going down of the emotions and activities surrounding Miguna's comeback is good for the country. It's also in his own interest. It's also in the interest of the government and the immigration. So, to answer your question directly, his stardom has gone down. His attention by all the people concerned, including the public and the press, has also, to some extent, gone down, which is also good because it provides an environment through which this issue can be resolved both politically and also legally. Remember, the court orders are still in place. The court process is still in place. Those court orders must be obeyed. There is no question about it. I am not aware that any of those orders that have been issued in relation to the Miguna debacle has been suspended or reviewed or set aside. So, so long as that is the prevailing situation, then those orders must be obeyed strictly. The other alternative, of course, would be, do we settle these issues out of court? It is an avenue that is available, and that is what I am personally advocating for, because we do not need all these. The country is mourning. I mean, we are mourning. We don't need more drama and shenanigans at the airport anymore. We have an issue that we have to deal with in relation to what happened in Nakuru. So, let us channel our emotions, our attention
to the right places.
To the right place, not these shenanigans that can be avoided. Yes,
it's true, and I agree with that. But let's just wind up the conversation also by just asking if he comes back to the country smoothly.
Yes.
Is he likely to do much with this? Because he said that, even after the handshakes, after the hand checks, that's what he called them, that still, whatever he was agitating for will continue. Is he likely to go anywhere with that?
My fear, Betty, is this, that a general without an army is not, strictly speaking, a general. Remember, Raila has his own crowd, and it's quite huge. That is the crowd upon which back Miguna was riding on. That crowd is with Raila still today, until today. That crowd is not with Miguna. That is my only fear as far as his cloud is concerned. The crowd is not there, so the cloud is gone.
Yeah.
But that is not to say that his agitations are not right. In fact, I admire his resilience and his zeal to fight for human rights in the Republic. Because my fear, Betty, and I say that even during the run-up to the elections, I foresaw Jubilee having a majority in Parliament, and that is well, my greatest fear was that having a majoritarian Parliament is we have a situation where we do not have checks and balances. Now we have a hard check. Who is going to check the government? We need a strong opposition. What I can encourage Miguna to do once he comes back, let him take his rightful position. There is a vacancy now, as far as checking and balancing the government is concerned. Miguna should take that niche, carve it, cultivate it, and, if possible, let him prop himself up as the unofficial opposition leader, if he can have the crowd. And if he is able to fashion and coach himself properly, and with a lot of civility, trust me, the country will move in his direction. Even you people, the press, will be making a lot of reference to him when issues of governance, transparency, and accountability are concerned.
All right.
Yes.
Interesting. Ojijo.
Now, allow me to say this, that you need to look at the history of Miguna right from 1989, progressively up to now. Miguna has been a man, he's been a lone ranger. So he's used to that. The fact that he's coming back to the country, he does not even need the masses to, spearhead what he's saying. Miguna will say it as it is. You see, at some point he even had to, openly disagree with Raila in public. So he's not afraid of that. He may not make political sense to so many people, that because the majority will still be with Raila. But he will not relent on what he's fighting for, because we have tested him over the time, and we know what he really stands for. With the handshake, another thing that comes out clearly is that the handshake will not make what is wrong becomes right. It will not overshadow the wrong things now to be seen as right. People were killed, Betty. Apology itself is not enough. You see, there are victims that still need the government support. The breadwinners were killed and they cannot sustain themselves. Miguna will still fight for this. He will say people were killed and that nothing has been done to them. Apology itself will not help us. So I think let us also not be drained so much with the handshake and forget about, the real effects that people are living right now. I think that even though we have handshake, that now we are trying to have national unity. But also remember that this handshake itself, it is not on unity as we think it is. It is also, number one, premise on political gains on individual. You see, the individuals that feel that we need to come together as a bloc, you see, to ensure that we achieve our purpose against somebody else. You see, it is not for the benefit of Kenyans as we think it is. No, we are made to believe it is for our benefit, but it is not. So Miguna represents, the future, the future liberal, the future change that this country demands, that individuals can stand on their own to agitate for what is right, that you do not need that political will to fight for that which is right. And I think if we continue with that, in the near future, politics are likely to change in this country, because Kenyans have realized that the same figures want to dominate this, the same figures want to use Kenyans on their own advantage. If these people were serious, even if the NASA side themselves were serious to have Miguna back, by the time the handshake was made, he will be here. You see, so he's telling you something. It is not about him. You see, it is about individuals that want their, their interest to come out right and to supersede everything that Kenyans are fighting for.
Interesting. Thank you very much for that, gentlemen. Thank you for your time.